piece of smart technology could help solve a murder mystery in Arkansas.
2 Pine Bluff teens are in jail tonight facing murder charges. Police say they are in custody in connection to the shooting death of 2 17-year-olds.
It was a bizarre story in Russellville, Arkansas today. A man who reportedly quit his job over low pay went on a shooting spree with 2 handguns.
Tributes are pouring in for Ann Presley. The Little Rock TV anchorwoman died over the weekend.
A suspect in the deadly Fayetteville shooting on New Year's Day in court this morning.
A Little Rock mother is pleading for help tonight. She is asking anyone.
Thanks for listening to Strictly Homicide, an Arkansas true crime podcast covering lesser-known cases out of the natural state. I'd like to start off by thanking my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to help support us, you can find us on Patreon and help with as little as $1 a month. There's also a donate button for a one-time donation on strictlyhomicide.com. Please stay tuned until the end of the show to hear a few promos from some of my favorite shows. Warning: Strictly Homicide covers cases that include sexual assault, violence, and homicide. Episodes may contain explicit language and are not suitable for young ears. Listener discretion is advised. Thank you for downloading episode 28 of Strictly Homicide Podcast. I've been very lucky to have many of the friends and family of Maranda Goldman share their memories with me. I loved hearing the memories of how wonderful of a person this young woman was, how many lives she touched, and how much she cared. But at the same time, I had to see how hurt this family is. I have no idea what it's like to have such a special person taken from me. Imagine that not only was this person taken from you, but the killers got away with it. Law enforcement turned their noses to the family members laying out everything from what happened to Maranda to those who did it. Often victims that fall within a specific demographic are pushed aside, forgetting that those individuals are humans too. Before I get into this episode, I want to express how thankful I am for the friends and family of Maranda. Without them, this episode would not be possible. I've spent hours and hours looking into the case with what very little information there is. And I've spent a lot of time getting to know these people. A lot of them also took a lot of time out of their personal lives to help me. And I just want them to know how thankful I am. Every minute that I put into this case has been completely worth it. I haven't even begun to understand just how special Maranda was. Originally, I was told about this case by Charity Albright's mom. Charity was the case that I covered in episode 8, a case that's always going to be special to me. Then I was contacted by Johnny Marie, and I was drawn to the case immediately as soon as I started looking into it. After a post in the Maranda Goldman Facebook group, the responses I was receiving from people who knew her was overwhelming. I'll share links in the show notes and on social media. Not one person has had a negative thing to say about her. I owe an extra thank you to Aunt Kat. I hope it's okay that I called you that. Thank you so much for talking to me about this case and telling me about your niece. I also want to thank Sandy. I know it's really hard to talk about this, and I can't even begin to imagine, but thank you for all the information you gave me. I also want to say thank you to her cousins and childhood friends, Heather, Taylor, Casey, and Thomas. Especially you, Taylor. You've taken a lot of time out to get information for me. and I really couldn't do this without your information. I also want to give a really big shout out to another Arkansas-centered podcast, Murders, Missing, and the Misconduct, a true crime podcast from the Natural State. Their format is a little bit different than mine because there's two hosts and they have the greatest chemistry, but they're hilarious. They also cover lesser-known cases out of Arkansas just like I do. I got to meet one of the hosts yesterday, Mel, and she is so sweet and very funny. I'm very glad I got to meet her, and eventually we're going to team up and tackle a case together. Make sure to also stay tuned at the end of the show to listen to the promos from a couple of my favorite shows. 2 of them are new shows. The location of the crime is technically unknown. We know factually that she was taken from a location in Pine Bluff and that her body was found in a location in Pine Bluff, but the crime did not occur where her body was found. Her remains were later dumped there. The victim grew up in Whitehall, Arkansas, which is located in Jefferson County with a population of 5,526. During the 19th century, settlers were drawn to the area because of the pristine drinking water that flowed freely above the in-ground pools. They called the area Grinshaw or Grinshaw Hall Springs. A preacher with the last name of Hall found the springs and built a church, which later led to the name Whitehall. In 1913, an act passed increasing taxes for construction of Arkansas's first concrete paved road. Dollarway Road was a 22.2-mile-long road that connected Pine Bluff city limits to Little Rock. Now it's known as Arkansas Highway 365, and it goes right through Whitehall. The Bellingrath House was built between 1934 to 1935, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Properties. It's hidden away in a wooded area behind a man-made pond that is shaped like the United States of America. I questioned that. I don't know why I did, but I did. So I went on Google Earth, and yes, it is shaped like the United States of America. During World War II, on December 4th, 1941, the U.S. Army Chemical Warfare Division began construction of the Pine Bluff Arsenal. This caused a rapid growth of Whitehall. Pine Bluff Arsenal is one in 9 Army facilities that stored chemical weapons. At least 7 different biological agents were produced there before Nixon banned biological weapons. Between the years of 1971 and 1973, all of the biological agents were destroyed. About 7 miles southeast of Whitehall is Pine Bluff, which is one of the most dangerous cities in the U.S. The murder rate is 51.1 per 100,000 people, while the national murder rate is only 5.3 per 100,000 people. In 2017, the crime rate in Pine Bluff was 3 times higher than the U.S. average. In 2013, Pine Bluff was the second most dangerous city in the U.S., only behind Detroit. Recently, the city was Arkansas's 3rd most dangerous city, and Forbes named it the 7th most dangerous city for women. The population of Pine Bluff has decreased by almost 15,000 people since 1990. Pine Bluff is not only dangerous for the residents, but the police too. Is this why so many murders go unsolved? David Usborne, a journalist, patrolled with the local police department and wrote an article. The police chief at the time, Jeff Hubank, told him that all of the usual dynamics are at play: poverty, a below-par education system, and drugs. He said kids are graduating high school who cannot write a proper sentence or fill out a job application, so they can't get a job. Most of them turn to drugs. In 2012, drugs accounted for almost all of the murders. Eubanks said, "The reality is the little old lady with the kitten in her lap is perfectly safe in this town. But if you're slinging dope on the east side, you are looking to pay with your life." The area of Pine Bluff, Whitehall, Redfield, and other little cities around there have a really bad problem with meth, heroin, and prescription pills. The amount of unsolved murders are so high that the police department recently offered $10,000 reward for any information on any of the unsolved murders that's happened in the city. They're really trying to encourage the residents or anyone that knows anything to call in and let them know. There's way too many unsolved murders there. Clea Shindra Hall, and I might be saying that wrong, but I think she actually went by Clea, was a beautiful 18-year-old high school senior, an honors student, and chosen to give the commencement speech at her graduation. She was only 2 weeks away from graduating. She had been accepted into the pre-med program at Tennessee State University and was looking forward to attending. After school, she would go to work part-time for Dr. Larry Amos. On May 9th, 1994, around 8 p.m., she called her parents and said that she'd be working late and she'll call her mom when she's ready to be picked up. She never called her mom back that night, and Dr. Larry Amos claimed that she got into a car with an unknown individual. The police said the doctor was a person of interest. They searched his property but found nothing. The case has never been solved. On February 18th, 30-year-old Willie Baines was sitting in the passenger seat of his friend's car when over 30 rounds were fired into the car. The driver walked away with no injuries, but Willie was hit only once, in the back of the head and at close range. The police say they questioned the driver, but they let him go. The police didn't put much effort into investigating this murder because Willie had a criminal past. At the time of his murder, though, he was cleaning up his life for his kids. This case still remains unsolved. On September 23, 2015, Keith Wilbert Jr. was shot to death during a home invasion. His 4 roommates were left unharmed. The case remains unsolved as well. Wilbert's father was quoted saying, "There are no witnesses, no arrests, and this is unacceptable." "15 days later, on October 8th, 2015, this episode's victim, 23-year-old Maranda Goldman, goes missing from the Goodwill parking lot in Pine Bluff. An anonymous caller would call in the location of her body a month later. There are people out there with information, people who witnessed the murder, and people who helped, but yet nothing has been done. For those who witnessed it and have information, you have helped the murderers get away with this, allowing them to be free to hurt and free to kill again. You are also responsible for the pain that those who loved Maranda deal with every second of every day. If you would do what's right, they would be able to find closure. If anyone has information on Maranda's murder or any unsolved crimes in the Pine Bluff area, please contact the Detective Division at 730-2090. Don't forget that you can remain anonymous. Drugs have a major role in this episode's case. A beautiful young woman, loved by nearly every single soul that has met her, was introduced into the wrong crowd. A crowd of people involved in the Aryan Brotherhood, illegal prescription drugs, meth, heroin, drug dealing, raping females, and murder. Maranda Goldman was born July 29, 1991, in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to her mother, Sandy, and dad, Scott. Maranda was close to her father in earlier years. He coached her softball league, and she loved to go hunting and fishing with him. She was never a girly girl and absolutely loved everything outdoors. When her parents divorced, it was very hard on Maranda. Eventually, her dad would remarry and sadly fall into drug use. He stopped paying child support and visiting, which affected Maranda pretty bad. Growing up in Whitehall, she grew very close to her mother's side of the family. She would visit her grandmother in the nursing home with her mom and either help the ladies who worked there or entertain the nursing home residents by giving them their very own concert in the dining room. Her Aunt Kat was very close to Maranda. She said anytime that she would give Maranda something, she would keep it, no matter what it was. She put it in this little keepsake box. Anytime that Maranda would visit her, she would ask Aunt Kat what she can do to help her around the house, even if it was cleaning gutters. This family was so close that even Miranda's first cousin, Heather, referred to her as her best friend. Many people called her that. She was the type of person that everyone needs in their life. And if you have someone like that, you know just how lucky you are. She was your typical teenage girl. She loved her friends and hated school. She was never a morning person, even requiring her friends to come wake her up for schools on some days. She had a really great sense of humor, and it was rare to not see her smiling or hear her laughing. Entering her teenage years, she threw a redneck birthday party for her 13th birthday, which included mud wrestling and lawnmower racing. The next time someone throws one of these, could you please send me an invite? This sounds like a ton of fun. Maranda loved having fun. She loved riding four-wheelers with her cousin and would often get in trouble for staying out too late. Not because they were getting into trouble, but because they were having so much fun that they lost track of time. Growing up, you would usually find Maranda outdoors with friends enjoying life. The lake was one of their favorite spots. She had some serious tubing skills and was always tan. She was just a very happy person with a huge heart and a thirst for life. Something everyone has said about her is that no matter what, if you needed her, she was only a call away. She would literally give someone the shirt off her back. Maranda and her younger sister were very close from the beginning. The murder of Maranda has been so hard on her that she, to this day, still has a really hard time talking about it. No one in this family has been able to get closure. Can you imagine what that would do to a person? Day after day after day? One of Ashton's childhood friends told me that Maranda made a huge impact on her life, and she isn't sure that Maranda even knew that. She moved to Whitehall, next door to Miranda's family, in 2000. And she said that even though her and Ashton were younger, Maranda was never mean to the girls, as annoying as they were. Those were her words, not mine. She remembers the last time that she saw Maranda. She was working at Wingstop, and Casey was crying over relationship problems. Maranda said, "Let's go for a ride," drove her around and comforted her, and telling her that she was too good for all of that nonsense. She said that she'll never forget her smile. And when you see a picture of this beautiful girl, you will understand what she means. She had a smile that was unforgettable, described by everyone nearly the same way. Her smile was actually the first thing that stuck out to me. She was an animal lover. Her aunt shared a few pictures on my Facebook page of her and a deer. She bottle fed that deer. She was such a caring individual with a heart of gold. Maranda was tiny, but had a huge personality. She only stood about 5 feet tall and hardly weighed 100 pounds. She was a natural beauty. And everyone also mentioned her thick, curly, beautiful hair. Hair any female would envy. It was pretty rare to see Maranda without her tan. She loved laying out in the sun. Her cousin remembers them oiling down with Afro Sheen before laying out forever. I'm not gonna lie, I did have to look up what Afro Sheen was. It brought up a whole line of stuff, but I'm assuming that it's like baby oil or tanning oil. She always dressed nice and had a thing for name brand jeans and name brand shoes. Anything else she didn't really care about, but her jeans and her shoes had to be name brand. You know, kind of like a typical teenager. She had a huge range of musical favorites and loved blasting music while she would get ready on the weekends, giving anyone home, her friends or family, a free concert, just like she used to do with the nursing home residents. These concerts would range anywhere from Lil Wayne to Dolly Parton. Her normal diet consisted of McDonald's McChicken sandwiches and ramen noodles. This must be one of those random facts about someone that everyone knows and will never forget, because I was actually told this by many people. Her mother, Sandy, always brought her a McChicken sandwich and a pack of cigarettes, no matter where she was. Another food favorite of hers, and this is pretty unforgettable, was a piece of bread and ketchup. Nothing else, like a hot dog with ketchup, just minus the dog. That's how her cousin described it. I'm sure that had to do with her love of dogs, right? Maranda really just didn't care what anyone thought about her, unless someone was messing with a loved one. She was one of the most loyal friends someone could ask for and would stand up for her friends no matter what and to whoever. I know at this point you may think I'm trying hard to make her sound perfect, but I'm not. I've never seen so many people have nothing but great things to say about someone, about how caring and loving and loyal she was. She wasn't perfect, though. She did have her flaws just like every single human being. Most guys wanted to date Maranda, and most girls wanted to be her. But she never let that get to her head. No matter how jealous and catty females were to her, she would just blow it off with a positive attitude. Because of this, she did have more guy friends than girls. But the girlfriends she did have were relationships she held dear to her heart. For always being such a great friend to everyone, Maranda would become involved with the worst kind of people. People who would use the fact that she was such a caring and loving person against her to drag her through hell and back, just so they can benefit themselves in some sick, perverted way. Before Maranda was introduced into a group of people who would later be involved in her death, she never experimented with heavy drugs. She was a chill, mellow girl. She preferred weed over alcohol because weed mellows you and makes you giggly. Alcohol and her did not mix well. She wasn't really a nice drunk. This might be the only time people would see her get a little hateful. So she just decided not to drink hardly at all and just preferred the mellow high. Some of her friends were getting into heavier drugs and hanging around individuals involved with meth, prescription pills, criminal activity, and the Aryan Brotherhood. Maranda was introduced to oxycodone, an opiate-type pain reliever, and Xanax, a benzodiazepine, also known as downers. With Miranda's addictive personality, not long after she started using, the addiction would grow. By 2014, Maranda was spending so much money on the pill addiction that she was having problems getting her fix. Maranda didn't see many of her old friends anymore. She spent her days at drug houses with heavy drug dealers and users, often doing whatever she could to get her high. Her addiction switched to much heavier drugs that she would eventually begin shooting up. Many of her older friends who hadn't seen her in a while said that they knew she was doing really bad, basically hitting rock bottom by 2015. In 2017, 19.7 million Americans over the age of 12 struggled from a substance abuse disorder. 8.5 of those Americans also suffered from a mental health disorder. Many people are just trying to self-medicate, not realizing that drugs are only making the disorders worse. Drug abuse and addiction cost our society more than $740 billion annually. The statistics only get more heartbreaking when you break it down by specific age groups. 1 in every 25 teens, from ages 12 to 17, suffer from a substance abuse problem, and 1 in every 7 Americans between the ages of 18 and 25 suffer from substance abuse, with heroin use doubling for this group in the past decade. Addicts start switching up to cheaper highs, not realizing how deadly it can be. Not just the drug itself, but the lifestyle too. If you or someone that you love is battling an addiction, please call the American Addiction Centers at 1-888-851-5339. Miranda's addiction got worse, and the individuals that she surrounded herself with were aiding to it. Her mother attempted to send her to rehab, which was the first step taken to change her life. But if fighting the illness were that easy, the problem wouldn't be as big as it is today. Maranda fell back into that lifestyle. I'll be changing the names of those that are known to be involved in Miranda's murder. There are about 6 individuals. Their names and the information has been reported to the Pine Bluff police detectives. They may or may not have questioned some of them. No one knows for sure, because the detectives have just pushed this case aside. I assume they do not think that her death is important because she lived a less than perfect lifestyle. But while Maranda was taken from this earth too soon, those who got her involved in this lifestyle are still roaming free to hurt more people. Please take a moment right now to hear a few words from today's sponsors. The names of those allegedly involved in Miranda's death have been changed. Jason Hogan lives in Redfield, Arkansas, about 15 miles north of Whitehall. He's known by his middle name, Micah, and he's also a known meth dealer. He's been convicted of possession with purpose to deliver a controlled substance, meth, cocaine, and heroin, possession of drug paraphernalia, manufacturing a controlled substance, second-degree battery, burglary, aggravated assault, carrying a weapon, and the list goes on and on. But you get the idea. Anyone who knows Micah, if you ask them about him, the first thing they say is that he's a monster and to stay away from him. Women have said that they woke up in his home handcuffed with an IV after being drugged and not knowing what happened. It's clear that they're either being raped by him or he's holding some kind of local sex trafficking. Maranda witnessed some pretty big drug deals when she hung around these people. So when one of the females decided that she didn't like Maranda anymore, she thought telling others that she was a snitch would be a good idea. Amy Grover West met Maranda through this crowd. Amy had dated some of the guys involved in this group, including one that had known Maranda for a really long time. Amy's boyfriend spoke of Maranda like his best friend and would do almost anything for her. Amy didn't like that. While she was controlling and jealous, she would take off sometimes for days and weeks, and Jason would not know where she was. Maranda wasn't aware that Amy felt this way about her. They hung out sometimes. One day, Amy, Maranda, and another female friend from the group, Allison Wheaton, were traveling in a car together. The 3 of them were in possession of drugs and needles. Maranda had a needle on her, and the other 2 had drugs. The 3 of them were pulled over by police. So when they asked them if they were in possession of anything, Maranda fessed up. They took all 3 of the girls in, and at the police department, the police tried to convince Maranda into becoming their informant. She told them that she wanted to think about it. After Maranda was released, she told her mom what they asked her to do. She said that she did not want to work with the police and that she was scared for her life. She told her mom these people were crazy and she's afraid that they might kill her if she did. A few weeks later, Maranda was staying at a friend's house, which was a known drug house in the area. Miranda's mom noticed that the driveway was empty, which was rare, but she pulled in to drop off a McChicken sandwich and pack of cigarettes. Maranda was just stepping outside of the house to walk to her mom's car when a bunch of unmarked vehicles swarmed the place. A cop came to the window of Sandy's car, and she explained that her daughter was staying there and she was just bringing her lunch. The police ended up arresting the owner of the house and his girlfriend, the people they were looking for. But during this time, Amy drove by and saw what was going down. She began yelling "snitch" at Maranda. There was also multiple Facebook messages, like saying "snitches get stitches." This was enough for Maranda. She was now in fear of her own life, knowing what type of person Amy and these other people are, knowing the things that they do. She saw it with her own 2 eyes. That was the moment that she decided to move back to her mom's house and clean up her life. It wasn't going to be easy. It never is. But she knew she had to. She told her mom that she was in fear of her life, not because of the drugs, but because of Amy. A few days before October 8th, 2015, Jason, Amy's ex-boyfriend, received a call from Maranda. She was scared and out of breath. Jason kept asking her where she was and what was going on, but all she told him was that she was at Micah's house and she had to run away from him. She said she was in the woods hiding from him. He tried to get more information so he can come pick her up, but she never told him exactly where she was. A few days later, on October 8th, 2015, which was only 2 weeks after moving back into her mom's house, Maranda asked Sandy if she would take her to the Goodwill to pick up a few things. Sandy normally went everywhere with her because they only had one car, but she wasn't feeling well on this day, so Maranda went alone. She went into the Goodwill, grabbed a pair of jeans and a belt, and called her mom and told her that she saw they were hiring. So she wanted to go to her friend's house after she checked out so she can clean up, return, and fill out an application. Getting her life back on track would be much easier if she was able to get a job. Maranda went to check out, and the clerk said that she was on the phone, and she heard her say, "Okay, I'll be right there. I'm about to check out, and then I'm walking out the door." Maranda was not on the phone with her mom at this time. No one knows who she was talking to, but it's pretty clear it was whoever took her. Miranda's mom waited for her to come home. She started calling her throughout the night, worried, but it was like she turned her phone off. This was not like Maranda. No matter what she was doing, she always checked in with her mom, knowing that her mom always worried. When she didn't return the next day, Sandy and Ashton drove to the Goodwill, only to find that the car was still sitting in the parking lot. First, they told her mother because she is over 18 and known to be involved with drugs, she could have easily left on her own. So they couldn't start a report for 72 hours.
There were no signs of a struggle when Maranda Goldman's car was found at the Goodwill in Pine Bluff, where she was due for a job interview that October afternoon. Maranda had come face to face with her demons and was on the straight and narrow. The job was just one way she was working to turn her life around.
She had gotten with people and in the wrong group, and someone thought that she was a snitch, and but finally she came home.
The same people that influenced her drug habit then considered her a threat. Sandy Goldman says if she would have known just how scared her daughter Maranda was when she came to and ultimately disappeared from this Goodwill that day, she never would have let her come alone.
The search for Maranda continued until November, when an anonymous caller, supposedly from Malvern, Arkansas, called in a tip that Miranda's body was located in a wooded area 3 miles from the Goodwill. The police went and searched the area, where they located a badly decomposed body in what the detectives referred to as a dumping ground. The remains were sent to the crime lab to identify the victim because the body was so badly decomposed. Remember Miranda's thick, curly hair? You would think that this would be pretty easy to identify her with. But it was gone. She had some jewelry near her and a cell phone. Her mother immediately recognized it, and this was when Sandy knew.
Police tell me they believe that Maranda Goldman's body was found in these woods here, just north of 38th in Ohio. Family telling me they are devastated by the news. Authorities say the 23-year-old has been missing for more than a month. Police say she was last seen at a local Goodwill where she was dropping off an application. Since then, Goldman's family has spent countless hours posting flyers, holding vigils, all in hope to see their relative again. Say they received a tip to look here and add the body found this morning was badly decomposed. Police tell us there were no obvious signs of foul play on the body found, and right now they tell me the body is being sent over to the crime lab so it can be identified. Family now just holding on to hope, whether they'll get closure or whether they'll keep searching.
Later, the crime lab did confirm that the body was Maranda, and the autopsy report stated that the body was so badly decomposed that there really isn't a for sure answer on the cause of death, but they did know it was a homicide. You would think that this would trigger a full-on investigation, but not much was done with this by law enforcement. Sandy made sure to tell them everything that she knew and how Maranda was scared for her life because of what she had seen and the harassment she was receiving from Amy. The police told Sandy that they questioned the people but released them. Others have reported the names and information to the police, but they just sit on it. There are at least 6 people that were involved in her death. That means 6 people who know what happened and are selfish enough to not report what they know to authorities. 6 people who are horrible fucking people who think what happened to Maranda is okay. These people need to be taken off the streets. They don't deserve the freedom that they have right now. I guess law enforcement didn't think that Maranda deserved justice. For some reason, when someone who has had a criminal past or involved with drugs or a sex worker is murdered, law enforcement see those deaths as less important. But solving Miranda's murder and taking those involved off the street is important. This doesn't need to happen to anyone else. People make decisions they regret all the time, but that does not mean that they deserve to be kidnapped, tortured, sexually assaulted, raped, and murdered, then dumped like trash.
Miranda was a fighter, she wouldn't have went down easily, but with the way that she was just laid out in that field with the phone in her hand and somebody that didn't know her, I just don't think that's the way she'd been left. It was someone that she knew took her life.
The supposed anonymous person who called in the location where Miranda's body was dumped was able to point the police in the direction of her body, exactly where her body was. She knows more. People talk. It's human nature. Eventually, people talk. It's said that it was either Amy or Allison who called in the location. Most likely, I'd say Allison, because not long after the murder, she lost it and broke down at a hotel room to Amy's ex-boyfriend, Jason. She told him what happened. She told him that she was there and saw Brandon Garrett strangle Maranda. She said it was because it had all went too far. There are many people who know the details, either because they were involved or they've heard it from someone who was involved. It's been 5 years since Miranda's life was stolen from her from a bunch of fucking losers. People who claim that they love Miranda and thought of her as their best friend, they know what happened, and they aren't speaking up. Eventually, the police are going to be able to piece this together because it wasn't difficult for others to do. And those who were involved but refused to talk to the police are going to be sitting in prison too. The police are already aware of who are involved. Why they haven't did anything about it is beyond me. But this case is going to fall into the right hands and justice will be served. Detectives said that they received many leads and interviewed those leads, but they went nowhere. I don't really understand why it hasn't went anywhere in 5 years, especially with all the information that is known. Maybe there's money involved or people in higher position through the Aryan Brotherhood. There's no telling. Allegedly, a mutual friend of the crowd, Kelson, picked her up in a white Lincoln or Crown Vic type car, lured her in with the expectations that they would get her high. They used her addiction against her, kidnapping her and holding her hostage in one of the homes near McDonald's where they hung around. She was tortured, physically and mentally. She was sexually assaulted and raped numerous times. After they realized that it had gone too far, Brandon Garrett raped her again, then strangled her right in front of Allison and many others. The home was beginning to smell, so they made Sam Lewis move her body into the woods. I get that these people aren't very bright, but no longer than 3 months after Miranda went missing, Amy, the one who assumed Miranda was a snitch, was arrested for drug possession. What a fucking winner. Please take a moment to listen to our sponsors for this episode. Miranda's character touched so many souls. She was so loving and caring that she trusted way too easy. People took advantage of that. They used her and then harassed her to make themselves feel better about their pathetic life. Miranda did not deserve this. Her murderers need to be locked away. If you know anything that could help the police arrest these monsters, please contact Pine Bluff Investigation Division at 870-541-5300. There is a $10,000 reward for any information that leads to any arrest. Even if justice for Miranda isn't important to you, maybe the money is. Whatever the case, I don't care. Please call in whatever information you have. Maybe if the police start getting these tips over and over again, they'll actually investigate it. Not only that, one of the main people involved is a known rapist, someone who drugs women and rapes them. This is known in Redfield, and nothing is being done. His next victim could be someone you love. Please call and tell law enforcement what you know. A beautiful soul was taken from this planet, from her family and from her friends. And all they were left with was questions. It is time that they get answers. Please make sure to share this episode. It's very important to get this story out and encourage people to talk. I will make sure to update everyone if anything becomes available. Thank you for downloading this episode of Strictly Homicide. The next episode will be another cold case from the northern part of the state. Cold cases are a little harder to research because all of the information isn't available. So bear with me, but I promise I'll get it out as soon as possible. Until then, check out the shows for the promos at the end of this episode for some really awesome shows. I just want to say thank you one more time to all of Miranda's family and friends for sharing this information with me and allowing me to cover this case.
Hey guys, I'm Brandy, and my husband Douglas and I host That Dead Body Show.
We talk about dead bodies, murder, the victims, and those that just play the victim.
All with the sarcastic, foul-mouthed, dark humor that you'll come to love us for. Or not. Even if we talk over each other sometimes.
Jinx. Download us with your favorite podcatcher, and find us on all social media at That Dead Body Show.
What is the perfect package? Well, it could be anything. Join Chad and Dave as they dive into the Perfect Package podcast. From the perfect first date to the perfect Old West gang.
I knew it was coming. I was like, where's my Hateful Eight pick from him?
Damn right. Of course it's going to be in there.
Each episode, Chad and Dave get 5 picks to create the perfect package. Then, it's up to the listeners to decide who will win each episode of the Perfect Package podcast. So get ready to explore everything from road trips to bank heists.
All right, I felt like we're on
dark.
Yeah, because I thought this was a normal heist. We might be breaking into like a hospital to steal our heart right now.
The Perfect Package podcast is full of laughs, some healthy competition, and a side of interesting tidbits. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
The investigation into the high school massacre
Parkland High School massacre.
At least 14 dead, 50 injured.
13 people were killed today in a mass shooting that includes a suspected gunman.
Coming soon, Active Shooter, a podcast that studies the psychology, motives, and methods behind some of the most notorious active shooters in North America and beyond.
East Alameda Avenue. They're saying somebody's shooting in the auditorium. 315 and 314.
We will discuss the whys, the hows, and most importantly, the proposed solutions.
316, I need a rescue in here. Hot, we got a guy shot.
Can the proper mix of mental health services and gun access put a stop to what has now become an accepted everyday occurrence? Have we become desensitized and accepting of this new phenomenon? Join us as we break down each case and discuss the failures that led to each event and how we can identify and stop them in the future. Join us soon, and please subscribe to Active Shooter